The last time that we chatted was over the phone, so it's nice to put a face to the voice.
Yeah, yeah. I was just thinking that actually. Yeah, I remember it. It was in the middle of COVID. I feel like we might have been in a lockdown as well.
I
Uh,
reckon you were, and like it doesn't feel that long ago to me though, and so I'm kind of shocked that this movie's come about so quickly, like in my mind at least. How quickly did you jump into it after the last film?
it was probably, oh, good question. I mean, because it was the same team that we had on Till Death. So I think they were developing it as I was wrapping everything up. And we were actually talking about another project. And like during those talks, one of the executives was like, "Hey, we've got this script that we've been working on. Would you be interested?" And sent it through. And so I'm going to say maybe, ooh, I was probably on set maybe a year later from when we released Till Death to then, but it was a quick like development. I remember by the time I jumped on board, we had like 4 weeks before Cannes Film Festival where they were going to start to launch and pre-sell it to the countries. So I had to do in 4 weeks. I had to quickly go through and do a draft of this script and rework things that I really wanted to do because for me what I loved about it was the wife and the robot kind of battling it out. So I wanted to focus the third act more on that conflict. So yeah, so it was kind of like changing that around a little bit and just little bits and pieces here, but the ripple effect of it all was a bit difficult. But yeah, we got there in the end.
I was going to ask what attracted you to the material, and you kind of just answered it, and that's a great answer. Like just the
Yeah.
fact you got these two, what was a she-bot and a human female going at it at the end. It's fantastic.
Yeah, well, it was honestly like the moment I really started to uh, be enthralled by the script was when the wife comes home and she's now having to kind of find herself being replaced, and I just thought that was such a unique thing because we've seen people on the work sites and everything get replaced, but like at home by that personal thing, and particularly like we have a 9 week old at the moment, and the dependency on the mother, not just the pregnancy and everything like that, but now with the breastfeeding and other stuff like that, it's crazy, and literally the a newborn will think it's still a part of
Yeah.
that mother for the first 6 months or so. And so I find that really unique of like what happens when you come home and that position was kind of being filled by a robot. So I really thought that was interesting, and I really loved to play into that. And in fact, we had a screening on Friday in Melbourne of the film, and those scenes, those like lasagna set cooking scenes and stuff like that, like the crowd really loved it. They were really kind of getting involved with that, and Megan does this kind of head tilt smile, and they just laughed out loud. It was brilliant to watch it on with an audience like that.
Was your baby born when you were filming this?
No, no. So we were actually probably soon after completing the film.
Yeah.
My wife fell pregnant. So yeah,
So now you watch it like in retrospect, like the stuff with the baby, does that hit harder?
yeah, yeah. Literally Friday night was the first time I had watched it as a father,
Yeah.
and the baby bath sequence. I just thought to myself, "What is wrong with me? What the hell is wrong with me?" I really don't know if I would have gone down that route as a father. It's interesting to think about it, but ultimately, it's meant to be
Yes.
an uneasy feeling watching that sequence. Um, but yeah, it was definitely everything else I'm kind of numb to now. I've seen it 1,000 times over and
Yeah.
over. That scene was the only time I felt something, and I wasn't happy with myself.
I raise a lot of eyebrows when I quite often talk about I like it when filmmakers put kids in peril and danger because it hits a different kind of emotional
Oh
depth.
yeah, yeah.
And I like being in the hands of someone that's got the guts to do it. So yeah, kudos to you because that's a great moment in the film.
Thank you. I actually had to really fight for that in prep when it was a different sequence and I rewrote that. I just thought the idea of water coming into the bathtub was a great time constraint, and we kind of foreshadow her strength and all this. So like playing those little elements. And I remember the first time they read the scene, they said the marketing team don't want you to do this. We can't sell it and all this kind of stuff. And we kept going back and forth, back and forth. And eventually I just said, all right, well, here's a Zoom link. Let's all jump on this afternoon. Anyone who doesn't like it can tell me why, and we'll go through it. And I don't know. Then they never jumped on, and they never again. And I got my seat.
Oh,
I was
but I
happy.
mean, also, like, you don't have to market that element of the film. Like,
Yeah. But it's like, it's also a thing where you have to kind of be like, yeah, you're meant to feel the horror of, like, it's a horrifying scene. You're meant to feel the horror of it. Like, that's the whole purpose of it.
Yeah.
Um, So it is, yeah. It's interesting, but I know like every country has like their own kind of threshold of violence they like to have, and it's even like, I mean, even so much as him lighting up a cigarette, that suddenly becomes
Yeah.
an issue in certain countries, and a rating issue, and all that. So it is fascinating when you're like in Germany and duration, they have to have 90 minutes. You can't have an 88-minute film. And if
Right.
Till Death, the previous film, we ended up having to add on this like 5-minute animation for the credits to get it over the line. So they had a minute film. So
Yeah, I was going to say, just
natural
slow the
release
crawl down,
was
slow the credit crawl down.
we did. We tried everything. And then at one point we're like, there's only so slow you can make this before people start to be like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah.
And speaking of, like, that whole stuff with the paternal and the kids and all that kind of stuff, this was written by Will Honey and April Maguire, and Will had previously made Blood, the Brad Anderson film, which deals with very heavy topics and subjects with kids. Was this a script that he had sort of on the back burner, or was it a fresh one that he'd just written? Like, how long had this project been sort of around before you came on board?
I think it was a few years that they were developing it with it, and also had other potential production companies
Mm.
kind of working and playing around with it. But just so you know, Will and April are actually in a relationship. So I don't know what kind of therapy this script was for them to get it out there, but it was definitely it's definitely great to kind of have both sides of the coin. And we had a long discussion and a few Zoom calls about the script and
Mm.
all. So they were very insightful with different things that they like. Because I like to come in and do a bit of a rewrite on a
Hmm.
script, but I'm well aware that as a director, someone's given birth to this idea, and now you're going to go take that baby and raise it for the next 4 years. So it's definitely a personal thing that you have to kind of tread lightly and discuss certain elements of themes and scenes that they think are untouchable and all this kind of stuff. So that was really fun. But yeah, they were working on that for quite some time. And I want to say maybe 6 months at Millennium before I came on board the project as well. They had done a few passes with the producers. I think the producers wanted to get to a point that they were happy with it before they brought on a director to ruin it for them.
Gotcha. Was Megan Fox your go-to casting, having just worked with her, or?
No, I don't. It's interesting. Like, in retrospect, I think she is like the perfect, having worked with her once before, I think
Hmm.
her strengths and everything like that, and
100%.
pick the character up for that. I also think there's just this Jennifer's body kind of mirroring element to it, where we take this badass character down this dark path,
Hmm.
which I really liked. And then also just with the intimate scenes, I think having that trust and having that film previously helped us make it feel safe to explore different things in those scenes. But honestly, in prep, I was kind of thinking of other people, and I think honestly, I was just a little nervous to be like 2 films in a row with Megan. Like, do I become the Megan Fox guy? Like, do I, how do I stretch my wings and all this kind of stuff? But once we really sat down and discussed it and everything, I realized that, like, oh, this character will really play to her strengths,
Hmm.
and it made me really excited. And I was just so happy once she was wanting to jump on board. But I was already in Europe on set, building the sets and working ahead. We were kind of moving quickly with this, so I was glad that she jumped on board. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
100%. They both of your films really play to her strengths in a strong way. So, well done for
And
you
they're
for
and they're
exploiting
quite
that.
and they're quite different as well, which I loved. That was the other thing as well, where I thought about it and I was like, well, we're not getting her to play the same character twice. This is
Yep.
definitely a polarizing performance. But yeah, I'm really happy with this performance, and I put it up there with some of the other ones with hers.
Yeah, you definitely should be. And this is obviously an AI themed movie, which there are a lot of AI themed movies going around at the moment. I kind of think yours is quite unique to a lot of the other ones in that you play into I think a 90s sensibility. Even though it's sort of a futuristic kind of story, you you don't rely on CGI. You got a lot of practical, which works brilliantly, and I think the audience will be happy with that. Was that your intention, or was it purely budget restraint that kept it like that?
No, it was really, I do love those 90s and early 2000s movies. And I think that those like $30 million budget movies, we really miss those now. I think streaming has kind of taken those budgets and just, made seasons or whatever. So you really just tend to get these, under 5 million and then like over 80 million, and you have this huge gap. And my favorite films, even like, of the last few years, I think anything within that realm of 25 to 40 is exciting because it's like it's a big budget, you can do stuff with it. And also you don't have to appease a giant audience to make your money back. You can try unique things. Now, saying that, we definitely didn't have the 25 million that I this project. So there was definitely restrictions within how we shot this, but ultimately I actually found it really interesting with AI to kind of explore it through an intimate lens of this family and to see little glimpses of the world and to see, this transition that's happening with AI outside. But you're really watching a family kind of slowly become fractured by this technology. And that excited me. I will say in the last couple of years, a lot of those films have kind of had more of an intimate lens like that. But at that point, then when we were going, the Megan one hadn't come out. Like there was the all these other AI ones hadn't really started yet, and it wasn't until we got into post production that we had all the AI strikes, or the
Yeah, yeah.
union strikes about AI rights and all this. So I think I mean, I'm sure now the industry is just full of scripts going around trying to
Yeah.
even more so now. But yeah, it was really interesting when like that element and just looking at it through an intimate lens.
There was something really uh, you could put your finger on the actors that were, playing as robots. Was there a trick in force perspective or sped up frame rates or anything like that to make them look more robotic than the natural performance? Because I did find that there were moments, particularly like the construction worker stepping out of the crate, turning his head. It just felt something that wasn't quite normal about it.
Yeah, we did play with some time ramps. I will say that like and editing little tricks, but for his performance, I don't think we touched anything. The only
Wow.
thing we did do is remove a couple teardrops from his eyes because he had to keep him open for so long in that take. And there's a shot where we just slowly push towards him as one of the characters circles him. And I remember going up to him and I was like, "Do you reckon you can do this, minute or two without blinking?" And he's like, "I'll give it." But by the end of it, he is like his eyes are got building up with water below it, so we had to like take out a little bit of those reflections. But he was an incredible. Max was he's also a stuntman, so I knew that he would bring that physicality to it.
Mhm.
Um, but what was interesting was more so we had contact lenses, so we actually had things that were just painted on a little bit, just to give it a slight uncanny feel to kind of match their performances. But once we got into things like the glitching out of the bar scene towards the
Mm.
end, that's where we started to really bring in some time ramps and some to enhance her movements and play with audio repetitions and things like that. So that was fun because when you're on set and you're trying to figure out how to do these glitches and everything, it kind of feels a little lame and you don't know if it's going to work. But I was really happy with how it all kind of came together in the end.
Yeah, really cool. I'm wondering, there's a line in the film where she says that she rocks them to sleep at night. Was that a direct reference to the hand that rocks the cradle?
No, I think that actually might have been. Well, look, if it is, it would be Will and April that put that in there because I believe that line was still in there. But I do love it that it's Madeline Zimmer who says the line, and
Yep.
She plays the little girl. And in fact, when we had our first Zoom call together, she said, I feel like I've been prepping for this movie my whole life because I was in this movie as a kid, and I feel like now all of a sudden I'm like become the mother, and it's going to be great to approach this film from a different perspective. And she was just incredible to work with. She was absolutely amazing, Madeline.
Yeah, stunning performance from her. Absolutely. I feel like there is a universe that could be built around this story because the entire time watching it, I kept thinking of, what the story might look like or what their world might look like beyond the family, like society in general. Is that like a world that you'd be keen to explore, or is this sort of a one and done and on to the next?
Um, I mean, I definitely approach this film as a standalone. But when you're working with sci-fi and when you're working with AI, when you're on set, you have all these discussions and you want to focus on certain things and everything. So there's definitely a world in, the back of my mind that I would love to continually explore. But I think if I was to do it, it would have to be more focused on the evolution of the AI itself, because I think we kind of explore AI as we kind of have now, which for me is quite infantile. In the way that you can kind of have a discussion with Chat GPT, and it will give you like an incredibly detailed response, but sometimes it will give you something that you're like, well, this is exactly how a 2-year-old would think
Mm.
that works. So obviously, as rapidly as it is all evolving, I kind of want to explore that next phase of it, and what happens. Yeah, it would have to be some sort of uprising. I think it would be exciting, but it'd be too big. I think the movie I have in my head is already too big of a of a budget. But look, I love sci-fi. I love the genre. I wanna keep exploring different elements within it, and we are kind of developing other projects that have nothing to do with this film
Yeah.
within sci-fi, and it is really exciting. It really is.
You've preempted my final question, which is one ahead of the next question. But I was going to ask you, like, have you got another project you're working on, and what genre are you leaping
Yeah,
into?
well, there's a couple of sci-fi, and there's one that's is I think of it as a dark comedy, but I think it's probably more of a thriller horror. I just have a very dark sense of humor. But yeah, there's a couple of projects where we're working on that I'm really excited to see. We're kind of figuring out which one's going to go first and everything, but it's an exciting time. You spend so long as a director on one movie, and you're just kind of banging your head against the wall trying to figure out how to make things work. And so after 2 years of working on that, I was really excited to kind of play with other projects and everything like that, and it feels exciting again. But now I'm like itching to get on set. There's nothing better than being on set, that's for sure.
I love that. I can't wait to see what you do next. But I'm gonna wrap it up on my second last question, seeing as I switched it around. And I'm wondering, sort of, I felt like there was a real clear filmmaking evolution between the two films. I think the maturity of this film is, just up another couple of notches, which is great. What lessons did you learn off the first film that you brought into this one?
I think ultimately the politics of a film set, and how you can kind of fight for certain things you want, and how you can kind of use other scenes that maybe you're willing to kind of everyone has a different idea of the movie that they want to make. And I think as a director, your job is to kind of um, express your vision as clearly as possible, but also fight for those moments you believe in, because there are people higher up that don't want you to necessarily do one thing, or want you to kind of change something else. So I think learning those politics and how to kind of battle it out, and focus more on what you want is important. But also, I think having one movie behind you and saying, hey, I can make my days, I can stick within a budget, and I can stick within this shooting period, and I can work with substantial actors, I think gave them a bit more confidence in me to kind of step back and everything, and allow me to at least attempt to work my magic.
Yeah, no, man, I'm loving what you're doing. I really do. And I've been telling everybody I know that I've seen this film, and it's an absolute banger. I really, really enjoyed it. It
Oh, thank
exceeded
you.
all of my expectations. So
Thank you.
congratulations on it. And I hope everyone that's listening or reading this will go and check it out too.
I really appreciate it, mate. And it was nice seeing your face this time.
Yeah. Well, we'll catch up on the next one.
Yeah, exactly. We'll do it in person. That's it. The
Yeah, for
next
sure.
each one will kind of get closer. I like it.
No worries. Cheers, mate.
Awesome, mate. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Welcome to Global Industries. Life simplified.
Daddy, look how real they are.
Our brand new series. The most sophisticated AI on the planet.
Daddy, can we get her, please?
Think about your family, about Maggie. I'm sorry. This is the world now.
What have you done to my heart?
Should I prepare dinner?
Not the same as Mom.
You smiled and my heart so long.
Suffering is not productive, Nick. I can help you.
It seems to have quite its own design.
Alice, I have a wife.
What have you done?
With your medication, it would be quite easy to lose consciousness and slip under the water. Imagine how upset Nick would be if you die.
What's wrong?
She won't live long, Nick, but I figured out a solution. You do so much for everyone. Let me do this for you.
We let these take over the world, but we didn't stop it. The things we've been doing, we can't do it anymore.
I can't let that happen.
No one can find out about this.
Maybe if I had your heart, you would love me the way he loves you.